I was in my room. My uncle was taking a bath. Suddenly, I felt a tingling sensation in my belly, as if I were a 15-year-old teenager. But it wasn't that naughty tickling, it was the urge to go to the bathroom. What I didn't know was that I was going to find my uncle taking a shower. What did I do? Well, I opted for the naughtier option. After leaving the bathroom, I had some naughty thoughts running through my head. Yes, those kinds of playful thoughts. And, at that moment, the only man I thought about was my uncle. A mischievous smile appeared on my face, while my hands toyed with the idea of doing something I had never done before. My mother and sister were asleep, having no idea what was about to happen. Determined, I headed towards the stairs that led to the rooms. I had to make sure none of them were awake. The doors to the rooms were closed and the lights were off, and inside, my mother was asleep. What would my mother think if she saw me? Better not to imagine it. My mind was set on one thing, and I wasn't going to let reason stop me. I crept closer to the door of my sister's room. My hand shook slightly as I turned the knob slowly so as not to make noise. The door opened softly and I peeked out. Darkness reigned inside, only broken by the faint light of a small night lamp, which my sister always left on. A giggle escaped my lips, a mix of nervousness and excitement. What was he about to do? I closed the door quietly and headed back into the hallway. My chest was still racing, but now with an emotion that I can only describe as desire. Yes, it was definitely a mix of nervousness and desire. I walked down the stairs, wondering what the hell I was going to do with my uncle. Ideas kept spinning around in my head, some more daring than others. Then I decided the living room would be the perfect setting for my little prank. For a moment, I felt like a little girl preparing an innocent prank. But this wasn't exactly an innocent joke. My thoughts kept going further than they should, but I was already too deep into this to back out. I sat waiting while my uncle took a shower, feeling increasingly nervous and more excited at the same time. I looked around, making sure once again that no one else was there. Everything was silent, like a stage prepared for my performance. Time passed slowly, but my chest was racing. Then, I heard the sound of water turning off and the bathroom door opening. My uncle came out, with drops of water still on his skin and his hair still wet. "Sorry, Uncle," I said quickly, trying to sound innocent, as my cheeks turned redder than they already were. He stopped dead when he saw me, clearly surprised by my presence. "What are you doing up at this hour?" he asked with a curious smile, drying his hair with the towel. I bit my bottom lip, thinking quickly about how to continue my little prank. I couldn't sleep, and then I heard noises, so I went down to see if everything was okay, I lied, with a playful smile that gave away my true intention. My uncle watched me with a mix of concern and curiosity. "Noises? What kind of noises?" he asked, following my game. I swallowed, feeling more nervous but determined to continue. "I thought he might be a thief or something." "But I see it was just you," I said with a nervous laugh, letting out my words with a hint of flirtation. He slowly approached where I was. With a mischievous expression, he couldn't hide his interest in knowing where all this was going. "What now, Miss Detective?" he asked, now clearly amused by the turn our conversation was taking. I adjusted my clothes, playing with the hem of my shirt nervously. "I thought we could play a game," I proposed, with a mischievous smile that left no doubt about my intentions. He raised an eyebrow, sizing me up with a mix of disbelief and longing. "A game?" he repeated, as if he were considering whether to play my game or not. I nodded confidently, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement knowing that we were about to cross boundaries we had never crossed before. "You dare?" I asked with a voice that could barely be heard, challenging him with my eyes. He was silent for a moment, as if weighing the consequences of accepting my challenge. Then, he smiled and came to my side. "Okay, let's play," he said with a knowing smile. The atmosphere was filled with tension, as we began to challenge each other with small glances. We were laughing nervously as we headed towards my room. It was exciting and at the same time terrifying to feel the adrenaline of the forbidden flowing between us. Upon entering, we found ourselves sitting very close to each other, smiling at what was about to happen. The distance between us had narrowed until I could feel his warm breath mixing with mine. "You dare?" I whispered. He could barely be heard, feeling my heart beating fast in my chest. He nodded with a mischievous smile, his eyes twinkling playfully. The atmosphere increased the temperature, sharing that moment of expectation and mutual longing. My hands shook slightly, feeling heat through me. It was as if time stopped around us, leaving us suspended in that moment of debauchery. We both knew what was about to happen, but neither of us dared to take the first step. The silence of the house seemed to mix with the beating of my heart, creating an intimate symphony that only we could hear. "I don't know, do you dare?" He responded, with a seductive voice, but filled with a playful challenge that made my heart skip a beat. I could feel his warm breath mixing with mine, creating a current of sensations that ran through me. Every millimeter of space left between us seemed like an irresistible invitation to cross the last barrier that separated us. He stared at me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. Then, slowly, she leaned toward me, and we met in a moment that began gently but soon escalated into a passion that engulfed us completely. It was a moment that broke down barriers and released emotions that we had kept hidden for a long time. I clung to him, while his arms surrounded me firmly, as if he were protecting me, and at the same time longing for me with the same intensity that I longed for him. When it was all over, we both smiled. We looked at each other, with a mixture of amazement and complicity for what we had just shared. "I think we should," I started to say, but the words got stuck in my throat, unable to express everything I was feeling at that moment. He nodded gently, completing my sentence with his understanding look. "Yes, I think we should leave it here for the night," he conceded, with a warm smile that made me feel like everything would be okay between us. He left my room and I stayed tidying up the bed, each of us lost in thoughts of him. We knew that night had been just the beginning of something sensational and exciting, something only the two of us knew. If you want to know the details of what happened at that moment, I invite you to go to WhatsApp and Telegram that are in the description of the video. You'll soon be able to see everything out there, so join in. I have to admit, that night was sensational for me. No one else found out what happened between my uncle and me. It was our first adventure together, a moment we had wanted for a long time. Sometimes the best stories are the ones that are kept under lock and key, which is why I haven't told anyone until now. I lay on my bed, remembering every detail with a mixture of satisfaction and excitement. The way our eyes met, the relationship that was born between us in that moment, and the feeling of having crossed a line that I had been wanting for so long. It was like we had done something we never thought would happen. And although I was a little scared at first, it was also exciting. I realized that we both felt something, and that we couldn't deny it any longer. So, if you are interested in knowing the details, do not hesitate to join the WhatsApp and Telegram channel. I'm sure you'll love hearing the whole story in full. What do you think of everything I did that night? What do you think about what happened with my uncle? I know that what happened may be a little controversial, that not everyone will understand what happened that night between my uncle and me. But I also know that I am a single woman who likes to enjoy and have a good time. Do you think I was wrong? Or do you think I should just enjoy it, without thinking about the consequences? The truth is that I ask myself if what I did that night was right, although at the time everything had seemed sensational, necessary. And now the question, would you do it? Would you dare to have an affair with someone close to you, or do you think there are limits? For me, that night with my uncle was spectacular, a moment of madness where you let yourself go and only think about enjoying yourself. But I understand that for many it may seem inappropriate, or even morbid. Of course, I know that to some, what I did that night may be seen as a sin. Perhaps for others it is too risky, too impulsive. But what is life without a little risk? What is life if we are always worried about what others will think, instead of following our own desires? So here I am, telling my story, not to justify myself or seek approval, but to share a part of my life. And although I understand that not everyone can understand or approve of it, I hope you don't judge me. We can all make mistakes. Either way, I'm interested in hearing your opinions. Leave me your comments to know what you think.